Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thanks for coming back at the FSM 2022 Global Conference. I'm Captain Shukla, and I welcome you all after the inaugural session today, which had a huge amount of viewership on our live Facebook and YouTube sessions. We've come to the first panel discussion session of the FSM 2022. And I would like to introduce the topic. It is funding of skill development initiatives to bridge skill gaps, and a global approach with a lot of global leaders. And you will be seeing experts speak on various issues related to seafarer skill development, maritime professional skill development, as well as funding. So I would like to introduce the speaker list today. Jillian Carson Jackson, president at the Nautical Institute, and a very, very eminent figure in world maritime industry. Captain Sankalp Shukla, chairman of FOSMA and MD of Bernhard Schulte. Captain Mahendra Singh Bhasin, chairman of MASSA. Mr. Abdulgani Serang, general secretary cum treasurer, NUSI, India. And Mr. Sabyasachi Hajara, former CMD Shipping Corporation of India, and also a Varuna Awardee. So before I hand over the session to our moderator, Jillian Jackson, I would like my team to just play the introductory videos of each speakers so that everybody knows who you're going to hear from today, right? So tech team, can you just play the introduction videos, please?
Commenced a career in the Canadian Coast Guard. Jillian Carson Jackson commenced her career in the Canadian Coast Guard, graduating from the Canadian Coast Guard College as a navigating officer. With over 3 decades in the industry, Jillian has worked both afloat and ashore in CCG, including 10 years as an instructor at the CCGC. Following an active role at IALA in the development of VTS training, she moved to France to work with IALA as the Technical Coordination Manager. She then moved to Australia to work with Australian Maritime Safety Authority as Manager of Vessel Traffic and Pilotage Services. In 2016, Jillian left MASSA to set up her own consultancy, focusing on maritime technical advice and education. In May 2020, Jillian was appointed a Director of Global Met. Jillian represents the Nautical Institute at IALA as the Chair of the Emerging Digital Technologies Working Group and the Personnel Training Working Group. The Naval Connection proudly presents Jillian Jackson as a speaker at the Future Skills Maritime FSM 2022.
Wow, a big round of applause for Jillian Carson Jackson. And thank you, Jillian, for deciding to moderate this session. And now we have Captain Sankalp Shukla.
Captain Sankalp Shukla joined Bernhard Schulte, formerly known as Eurasia, as cadet in 1995. He got command as master in 2007 and shifted ashore same year in Chennai office. Sankalp then got a degree in International Shipping Logistics Supply Chain Management and Port Policies. He rejoined BSM as Marine Superintendent in 2009 and was promoted as Director in 2014. He was elected as a Chairman of FOSMA and is the General Secretary MAPS, Court Member of IMU, Member of NUSI ITF Trust, and Board Member of RBSC. The Naval Connection proudly presents Captain Sankalp Shukla as Speaker at the Future Skills Maritime FSM 2022.
Put your hands together for Captain Sankalp Shukla. Seafarers, get your questions ready and you can ask them at the end of the session. And now we turn
Captain Mahendra Singh.
Next participant.
Captain Mahendra Singh Bhasin opted for shore job in manning and training in 2001 after almost 10 years in command of vessels. Apart from heading all MSc crewing offices in India, he represents various associations and, to name a few, Chairman of MASSA, Director of MTRF, Secretary General of CMMI, member of various committees under DG Shipping, member of Nautical Association, executive member of MAPS, to name a few. Apart from his profession, he is strongly fueled by his passion to promote urban green cover. At various forums, he gifts plant saplings and encourages plantation of trees. The Naval Connection proudly presents Captain Mahendra Singh Bhasin as a speaker at the Future Skills Maritime FSM 2022.
Put your hands together for Captain Mahendra Singh Bhasin. Thank you, sir, for participating at the FSM. Can we have the next speaker, please?
Abdulgani Serang, General Secretary cum Treasurer NUSI. Mr. Abdulgani Serang is also Executive Board Member of International Transport Workers Federation, Vice Chair ITF Seafarers Section Asia Pacific Region, Vice Chair ITF Asia Pacific Region, National Secretary of National Coordinating Committee of Indian ITF affiliates. This aside, he is also a member of statutory bodies of Government of India such as National Shipping Board, National Welfare Board, Seafarers Provident Fund Office, Seafarers Welfare Fund Society, member of the Court of Indian Maritime University. He has represented India, NUSI and ITF on national and international meetings with relation to wage negotiations and collective bargaining agreements. He represents more than 100,000 Indian seafarers working on merchant ships, including offshore and cruise ships of Indian as well as foreign flags. The Naval Connection proudly presents Mr. Abdulgani Serang as speaker at the Future Skills Maritime FSM 2022.
A big welcome to Mr. Abdulgani Serang. Thank you for joining FSM. And now we have Mr. Sabyasachi Hajara.
Sabyasachi Hajara is the former chairman and managing director of Shipping Corporation of India, the largest Indian shipping company. An influential figure in worldwide shipping industry, he was ranked among the top 100 influential personalities in the global shipping industry in 2010 by Tradewinds and Lloyd's List. Mr. Hajara graduated from the University of Calcutta with a silver medal in BSc Chemistry degree in 1970. He completed his MBA from IIMC in 1973 and joined the SCI in May 1973. He also completed a degree in law from Calcutta University in 1977. In addition to his job at SCI, Mr. Hajara has held important positions in industry organizations and institutions such as INSA, International Shipping Federation ISF, and the World Maritime University. Mr. Hajara is the proud recipient of the Varuna Award, the highest civilian award by the Government of India to any individual in the maritime industry. Naval Connection warmly welcomes Sabyasachi Hajara to the Future Skills Maritime FSM 2022.
We are very proud to have Mr. Sabyasachi Hajara today with us at the FSM 2022. Now, without much delay, I would want to hand over to our moderator, Jillian. All yours, and all the best.
Thank you so much. And it is such an honor to be participating once again at this amazing FSM event. What an inaugural opening session that we had. It was just wonderful to see the support and actually to hear those questions. As the honored guests and dignitaries noted, it is critical that we recognize and support the roles of seafarers, of maritime professionals. There was a great question that was asked in that opening session that was a really good segue to this session. And that was, what skills can we add for the future? As a seafarer, what skills can I add for the future? The title of this session is that concept of how do we fund the skills development initiatives to bridge the skill gap. But one of the questions we need to always ask is, what is that skills gap? Well, a skills gap is defined as the difference between the skills the employee has right now and the ones that they're going to need to perform the job well. Now, that could be right now or into the future. The digital transformation of the maritime industry is resulting in changing skill sets. We have seen that in the past FSMs, and there will be more presentations on that at this FSM. This leads to that development of the skills gap. There are many industries that face the same issue. COVID-19 has actually made us even more aware of the importance of building capacity in the employees. For maritime, that means addressing the skills gap for maritime professionals. As reported in the Future-Minded Leader, a mindset for moving forward in uncertainty, before COVID-19, 59% of leaders indicated that skills building is crucial to long-term growth. During the ongoing pandemic, that has risen to 78%. This is an issue that is being realized by on-the-job workers at the lowest levels, all the way up to the leaders. The Future Skills Maritime series of global virtual conferences has really highlighted the need to identify and address the changing skill sets. But what is that skills gap? What I'd like to do right now, just before we get started and to help set the scene for our discussion, is to do a short Menti poll. Now, I hope many of you have done Mentis before. I'm popping onto the screen right now the information for this Menti poll. Now, the easiest way, if you have a QR reader, is to pop open the QR code reader on your phone. Now, I'm doing that as well. Point your phone to the screen. Let me get my QR code there going. Point your code to the screen, and you should then get access to the Menti. I'm also going to now slide over the Menti itself, so you'll see it build. And this is for a word cloud. The question is, what do you feel are the skill gaps in the maritime industry? I'm going to slide it over there now. So if you haven't got the QR code, don't worry. You can always go to menti.com and you can pop in the number. So you just pop your screen, point your QR code to the screen, and it should pop you over to the question. Very good. I can see Captain Bhasin is doing it. It's really quite nice because I can't see anyone else. So that means you will then get to a question here, and you can pop your words into the boxes and then press submit. And I think I've opened it so you can pop in more knowledge as well. So we've got soft skills in there. We've got emotional skill sets. We've got a mindset coming up there right now. So I think I'm going to do that. And I'm going to go into, I'm going to pop some in too. So just mind, take a few seconds to do it quietly amongst yourselves while I'm doing this one. And don't worry if someone already has it. The joy of a word cloud is that the more times the same word pops up, the bigger it will get. And that will help us identify where the focus is. So you can do it again and again. I've left it open there. Soft skills that seem to be coming up as a topic, and leadership. What else do we have? Communications, very good one. I'm going to come up with a couple more. And we're seeing some really great ones coming in. I'm going to leave it there just a couple more seconds while I take a note of that. I've actually added, I think, all the words I want to right now. So communication, leadership, soft skills, that mindset, teamwork, dealing with stress, the technical automation, digital skill sets, they seem to be popping up a fair ton of times as well. The top three seem to be communications, the ability to communicate, those soft skills, and those leadership skill sets. So it seems that those are the main areas. And if you think of the training, I don't know about you, but the training that I did as a cadet, didn't really get much in the way of soft skills or communication skills. I learned a lot about astronavigation, working in the blind pilotage, call rigs, 100% pass mark on call rigs, got to have that. But we didn't really necessarily have the emphasis when I was a cadet, when I was doing my training on these skill sets, and they are actually a gap that I've had and I've had to address. So I think that's a really good start. I'm going to stop the share. I'll leave it open if you want to keep putting those in a little bit, but I'm going to stop the share now, and I'd like to get into the focus that we have for this session. So thank you for that. And I'd like to open the floor and ask each of our eminent speakers to provide a few of their thoughts on this topic, which is not only bridging, identifying that skill gap to bridge, but how could we possibly have some funding initiatives? But I'm going to pass to each of the speakers. I will remind you that we would like to have you speak as concisely as possible. And that would mean for your opening presentation right now of your thoughts, please try to keep that to 3 to 4 minutes each. And I'm going to go to Captain Shukla first. Over to you.
Thank you, Jillian. Thank you very, very much. I thank Shaukat for arranging such a lovely seminar, and thanks for having me here. Jillian, I think you mentioned a very critical aspect which came out in the Mentimeter. When we went out to sea, when we were cadets, there was nothing called soft skills. Everything was hard skills, navigation, practical navigation, principles of navigation, ROR, bang on 100% required, otherwise you don't get through, things like that. But as the industry has evolved, and as the regulations have evolved, and as the skills have evolved, there is no dearth of hard skill training. We've got simulators, we've got actual physical training when it comes to hard skills. We've got institutes with proper main engines, generators, name it, it's all there. But over the last few years, we've realized that despite having the hard skill training, a person knows what is right to do it physically, but his mind tells him something else, him or her something else. And that is what needs to be addressed. In fact, prior to the COVID-19 situation, we as FOSMA had innovated a course which was going full on, and it was called the Shipboard Excellence Course. And there we targeted the soft skills, not of officers. Every organization, every company has a lot of training for officers, but the people who are actually doing the physical work on board the ship are our beloved ratings. And we targeted that group for them to understand what soft skill training is, like behavior-based training. And that was then followed by, being emotionally skilled, which we address through, their physical and mental well-being. It is unfortunate we today, even today, we as humans, we acknowledge the fact that our body has fever, we go to the doctor, our leg is paining, we go to the doctor. But if emotionally we are not feeling well, we do not like to go and speak to somebody to find out what that emotional setback is. So this is what we did, and this is what our understanding of the soft skills, which is a very important element in a training of a seafarer. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Thank you so much, and some very good points there. And thank you as well for being so concise with your times. This idea of, we used to have emotional intelligence. It's almost like having mental health intelligence. It's knowing when we need to go and ask for help. Thank you for that. I'd like to now go to Captain Bhasin. So please, your initial thoughts on the topic for today.
Thank you, Jillian. Thank you very much. First of all, of course, Shaukat, thank you for having us here in such a wonderful session. Sankalp has already spoken about the very critical part, soft skills. Before I go ahead, let me make a statement which I just said among the very few before. A skilled manpower is the benefit to the nation and the industry as large. That is our basic. And that is the statement. I will repeat, skilled manpower is of benefit to the nation and industry at large. Now, how we could get to it? My next comment is skill development, or we can call it upskilling, is already there in the maritime industry. We have been doing it. But to make it more useful, to make it more inclined towards our latest requirement is the key, what we all should be discussing here today. Soft skills you mentioned, there are many areas within the soft skills, which actually we have seen in the last 2 years of pandemic. We have all in tune to the online now. You name more than 90% of the training, Jillian, have been done online, world over. We have all got used to that. But there is also a gap for the persons who is teaching as well as the person who is receiving the training, they also need to come online to understand how to do it online. So it's for both, not only for the students, also for the teacher. That is one area we all are looking into it. Rather, there have been some courses which have been designed by the DG shipping and by the maritime industry to look into this. In fact, Shukla himself has conducted these kind of courses. That is one point. Coming back, as I said earlier, we all have skill development within the maritime industry, mainly driven by the companies. As of now, every company have their different type of vessels. They have, if you have a container, you have a bulk carrier or maybe a gas carrier. You give specific value-added training, which is skill development, to your officers as per your running of your ship. So owners drives the requirement of the upskilling. Then there's another part. STCW is also skill. But the upgradation of STCW is driven by the IMO or by the industry. So we need to have a co-sharing between these two and see the way forward. That's my take on this. Thank you, Jillian.
Thank you. And some really good points there about, you know, what is driving the skill set and how can we help with that? That digital aspect, that online and the digital divide. I've been doing my own little blogging there about making online learning stick, you know, the sequencing, the technology, the interaction, confirming your knowledge and having that transfer of knowledge. So there are some really important areas that we have there that are going. I'd like to pass now to Mr. Serang for your comments on today's topic.
Well, first of all, let me also thank FSM for inviting me. And during the COVID, let me also take this opportunity, you know, while everything on the roads was standstill, there was no movement on the railways, the skies had become serene, but it was only and only the passion and the commitment and the sacrifices of all our seafarers worldwide, which made it possible for the world to, you know, exist. And while I also take this and seafarer, not just the seafarer, but also their family members, the sacrifices and the understanding of the family members and they are still facing challenging times, the seafarers on board and ashore also. Let me take this opportunity also to appreciate and thank Qatar Airways, particularly amongst other stakeholders, for doing an excellent job. I only wish that post-COVID also they should have their lounge available. Don't wrap up the lounge after the COVID is gone for the seafarers, because it is something very unique for the maritime seafarers to have their own, their own lounge. It is unique. So I'm sure they will keep it open after the COVID also. Coming back to our topic, in the inauguration and also the previous speakers have also mentioned many good points. I would want to stress on the point that skill development is an ongoing and a dynamic process, is very much required. But I would like to give it an angle that shipper means there is no room for saturation or complacency by the companies, by the companies or the seafarers also who are discharging their professional duties. I would like to point out an irony that two aspects, because it is in whose interest skill development is. It is in the interest of the companies or the seafarers. We would all agree that it is in the collective interest of the fraternity, everybody concerned, including the companies, shipping companies, and the seafarers. Two aspects which I would want to point out. Firstly, that ship owners invest millions of dollars in acquiring the assets, and they are putting that asset which is worth millions of dollars at the disposal of 25 seafarers, and it is those seafarers who actually run that asset who are responsible. So equally important for the companies to ensure that there are skilled seafarers to man their ships. The irony is that at times when ship owners invest so much money in acquiring the asset, they do not have budgeted amount. Many of the companies don't have budgeted amounts for training and skill enhancement of the seafarers. Can you imagine an asset worth millions of dollars? When you're spending so much money on your asset, you should also have earmarked budgets for the training and upgradation of the skills of the seafarers women. Have it for, and that is for all ranks of seafarers, not just officers or every, as and when required, you have to have the dedicated company budgets for all ranks of seafarers. Secondly, seafarers themselves have to know that urge to enhance their skill also should come from the seafarers from within, and they should not tend to be complacent and not interested in enhancing their skills. But all skills enhancement modules, training, either virtually or hands-on practical training, need to be financed. It is very, very important. It needs to be financed. Individual companies, they have their own programs. And some of the companies, they are interested only in the finished product. They don't want to spend any money on their own. They want the seafarers to do all their courses on their own, spend money on their own, and they start coaching also. Some companies. But there are companies who have dedicated budgets, individual level, individual companies, as earlier mentioned, they have their own programs. Training institutes also have their own modules. But if the skill enhancement endeavor has to succeed, it has to be a tripartite mission. Why I'm saying tripartite? In which the Maritime Administration, or for that matter, the government of that respective country, but particularly the Maritime Administration, the shipping companies or the association, the seafarers and the association, that is
very true.
Unions, it has to be a mission, collective mission. First of all, collectively, it needs to be added. Shipping companies on the individual level, they will do their stuff, they will do their bit as required by the company. But collectively, identification of the skill requirement is very, very important. You cannot.
I think we're working on that now. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a fantastic comment for opening, I think. Thank you so much, Mr. Serang. And we'll come back, I think, to your further idea. I'd like to go into that a little bit further as we get into our questions. And that will be working on the concepts of this, how we really do fund that. And that's a really great opportunity. Some really great points that came out there. I like the idea of training as an asset. So it is true. We think of spending money on the tangibles, the physical ship, for example. But we also need to recognize that the seafarers, the people who make all of this work, are those assets as well. Thank you so much for those opening thoughts. I'd like to pass now to Mr. Hajara for your opening thoughts on the topic today.
Thank you, Jillian. I also thank the Naval Connection and particularly Shukla for inviting me to afford me to share some of my views. I would completely concur with my good friend Abdulgani that skill development, actually, human resource development should never be considered as an expense by any company. It's an investment. Unless you invest into your human resources, there is no way that a company can go forward. And this has become more significant now because, as we have said time and again, that change is the only constant. And the pace of change has become so much faster because, after all, if we look at just the past, few decades, possibly the changes during the past few decades have surpassed the changes during the preceding century. And the preceding century has possibly surpassed the changes happening during the previous millennium. So the pace of change has really really become very, very fast. And that's the reason why the investment into human resource has become so much more important. I don't have figures readily available with me, but I have a feeling that compared to many other industry, shipping industry does not invest adequately into human resource development. So that is something which one must look at very, very consciously. Of course, in India, I'm talking of 70s, we had set up that COMET, the Committee on Maritime Education and Training, under the chairmanship of my predecessor, who is no more, of course, late Dr. Sir C.P. Srivastav. And INSA, FOSMA, MASSA, and all their members, they contributed in the recent past. Of course, not too recent. It was in 2004-5 the Maritime Training Trust was set up, again, for the same reason, for development of seafaring. Because after all, as again Abdul Bhai has said, I mean, I have to only concur with him, that the asset and the technology is no good unless the people behind the technology, people behind the asset who are running, they are properly developed. So I think, I mean, I would rather keep on answering questions as and when they come up, but these are my just initial comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And that's actually a really good link in. And that concept feeling that what is the percentage? So where do we have that percentage of dollars that are actually spent on training within our industry? Now, I'd like to actually get to some of the questions that we have, and I'm sure there'll be more coming in. Just to start with, I'd like just to go back to the mentee. So one second, I'm just going to share my screen again so we can remember what we came out of that mentee share that we have and that word cloud says. So we have the results of our mentee, and just to keep that in mind, because my very first question is going to be based on that. I'm going to actually ask each of the panelists to respond to this question. We'll probably do it in that same order, but that's based on what's come out of here. What does that mean to you? What do you feel are the main skill gaps that we're facing in industry so that we can actually start then addressing those skill gaps? So that question is looking at what's come out of the cohort here that we have seen in FSM. And we can see that pretty clearly: leadership, emotional communications, technicals, the idea of internships. I think that's also kind of linking into mentoring. What do you feel are, your top three that you'd have? And it's going to be really hard for Mr. Hajara because you're going to be at the end, so you can start thinking about that. But what are the top three that you think, and how might we address that? Now, I'm going to ask you to try and respond as concisely as possible. So ideally, I will pop in after about 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes to see how we're going so that we can open it up and have time for the other questions. So I'm just going to pass over first to Captain Shukla. Over to you.
Thank you, Jillian. I think what is very, very important is communication. And when I talk about communication, I'm talking about over communication. Of recently, with technology increasing, we are seeing that the ships are being inundated by so much communication being sent from the office that it basically becomes the master, the chief engineers. They are more focused at actually replying to the communication. So a skill set, especially for people who are seated in the office, with regards to communicating with the vessel, effective communication, limited communication, only to the point, because whenever I interact with seafarers on a regular basis, one of the major grievances that they have is the quantity and the quality of communication that is happening between the two sides. And firstly, we need to realize the ship is run by the people on board the ship and not the office. The office is there in a supporting role, and we need to understand that communication should be limited to where absolutely necessary. And that is a very major point that we need to focus on. That's all from my side.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. And I'd like to now pass to Captain Bhasin for your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, Jillian. I will continue to what Sankalp said toward the soft scale. With the communication comes is a digital understanding, the digital communication, which I spoke some time back about, that online thing which has become the norm in these days. These are the new neutrals, as we call it. So there's a digital understanding on both the sides, which has to be understood. Unlike the past, there was a classroom teaching, or there was a classroom practical, or there was a normal face-to-face interaction. I'm a firm believer of that. Let me say that. But it is not there now. We are living in the new time, new conditions. So that the part of the soft skill, along with the communication, is the digital understanding, or the understanding of both the teachers as well as the student, that how to conduct the course and how to make the feedback in that, or make best use of that. That is one point. Other point is mentoring. Look, anytime when you are conducting a course, a mentoring goes side by side. Just to let everybody know, in 2021, MASSA, we started a mass movement of soft skill upgradation at the pre-C level. What we found as a MASSA was the post-C, it is taken over by the companies. Companies are doing their own as per their requirement of ships. So at no cost to the students, MASSA has been doing a soft skill, which is part of mentoring, part of leadership at the PC level to the more than 250 students that we have done already in 2021. And we are extending it to more. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for that. Very good. I'm going to pass now to Mr. Serang. And could you just give us concisely what you think are the top, what is the top 1 or 2 skill sets that need to be addressed?
I would just restrict it to one skill, and that is the attitude. Attitude on part of the shipping companies and attitude on part of the seafarer. If that thing is resolved in a firm base established on the attitude part, then every other thing will follow. That's it. I hope I was concise as it could.
You were very, very concise. Thank you so much for that. Mr. Hajara, can you please give us your thoughts?
The first thing which came to my mind, of course, has been already covered by Mahendra, is the question of mentoring. Because what has happened over the years or over the decades, the pressure on the seafarers, particularly because with the the number of man on the ship has substantially reduced, and there is overload of regulation. So obviously, the time available for the master and the senior other management level officers have become so restricted that the mentoring has really suffered. So of course, this is a part of also it has been brought out in your mentee thing that is the leadership, because after all, mentoring is part and parcel of leadership. But unfortunately, that is suffering, in the recent times. And the other most important thing is, of course, the digitalization is requiring completely different types of soft skill sets for the seafarers. And seafarers, at least the existing seafarers who have been sailing for long, they are not at all used to this level of digitalization. So that's a huge challenge for them. So that is again something which needs to be really taken care of. And that's why, I think someone mentioned, one of the previous speaker, that it's a completely dynamic, the human resource development is a completely dynamic thing. So it has to be continuously done. Of course, I would say that, shipping is possibly an unique industry. I cannot think of any other industry other than, I would say, or rather any other profession other than medical, where at least there is an internship. But that internship is just for 1 year, and that is after passing the final examination. Whereas in shipping, for every level of examination, you have basically to further come back after some sea time and other things. So this is something which is quite unique to shipping. And I think this is something which has to be kept in mind, that an ongoing effort, even for the refresher course, many a times because of the costs, the shipping companies and the seafarers, they don't feel happy about this refresher course, but they are absolutely essential, because with the changing times and changing technology, the refresher courses are absolutely essential. Thank you.
That's great. And actually, I'm going to keep you on for just a second, because we've actually got a question related directly to this concept of internship that you were talking about. And the thought was that, so I've got the question here. Is it possible that companies could introduce internship programs during the waiting period for cadets to help improve their skill sets? So hopefully that you'll be able to get that. This is from one of the students that we have that are online. So it's great to hear from you. Thank you. So the question is it possible that the company can introduce internship programs during that waiting period for cadets to improve their skills? And in the future, if they want to move ashore, it could help them actually understand better that ship-shore relationship. So I kind of wanted to pop that one out right now, because it seemed to be in line with some of our discussions about the ship-shore communications and the link into internship and mentoring. So perhaps I'll get Mr. Hajara to start off with that one, because you were just talking about internship. And I think I can see that Mr. Serang would like to go next, but I'm going to start with Captain Hajara.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jillian. It's a very interesting question. And the short and sweet answer, if you just ask whether it is possible, of course it is possible. But unfortunately, shipping is of course, at this current juncture, for a particular segment of shipping, which is the container shipping, it doesn't apply. But in normal times, shipping is a cutthroat industry. Ship owners really, struggle to meet the both ends. So until and unless something is, some consensus is developed at the international level, and there is a level playing field that every single ship owner is required, or rather is mandated to do something, it becomes difficult for a particular ship owner to go out of the way simply because of the cost. Because after all, at the end of the day, shipping is a business. So you have to look after your shareholders. You have to give them some return. So unless you make some profit, there is nothing to plow back even into human resource development. So that is where it becomes a problem. But otherwise, the simple answer is yes. Of course, it is possible, and it should eventually help the ship owner. But at the current situation, unless he is having some surplus, it will be very difficult for him to plow that back into developing the internship and things like that.
Okay, thank you. And that's actually really interesting. I think, Mr. Serang, you had a comment on that, and then I'll go to Captain Shukla.
Well, some companies do have this internship assured. They already have it, but depends on the company to company. But here I would like to only add that when we mentioned about after the selection, companies do keep the seafarers, the cadets, and also the trainees. So I am mindful of the fact that whenever we refer to cadetship, it is focused only on the officers, not because I come from a ratings union. It also includes the trainees also. We have to bear that in mind. And as I mentioned, they do have but it is not en masse, but companies do have their program. So you will be fortunate to be employed or available with interviewed with such a company.
We have lost Abdul Bhai in between.
I think we might have had just a quick gap on that, but I did understand. I heard about if you happen to work for a company that has that program already in place, then it could be available. I think also I'd go and see whether or not it's something that the training institutes might be able to do. So I think that might be a little bit outside of the scope of our discussion today, but I'm going to maybe put that forward to FSM for some future thoughts. Now, I'd like to pass now to Captain Shukla.
Yeah, thank you, Jillian. I think Mr. Hajara has raised a very valid point that funding towards human resource development, especially human resource development on board of seafarers. Now, standard companies, regardless of whatever the situation is, have a detailed training matrix. They have training requirements, and in fact, let me address trainees, like what Mr. Ghani said, whether it be rating trainees or officer trainees that we call cadets. They go through a proper induction program before they go on their first ship, so that they understand the philosophy of the organization. They understand the do's, the don'ts, the safety philosophy, the organization structure and things like that. And I know of certain companies where, in fact, for the trainees, the induction program is as long as 3 months, because they do it right from scratch, and they feel that investment in that training is very much required. Because when you take, for example, a trainee OS, you're looking at a future bosun and maybe a future officer on board your ship. Similarly, when you are looking at a cadet, he's going to be your future master, or he's going to be your future chief engineer on board the ship. So that kind of investment is required. Mr. Hajara did mention before that investment is something, money that is being spent in training is an investment. It's not an expense. Yes, it is an investment. It is investment in your human resource, which is your largest asset of your company is your human resource. As good as what your human resource is, that good your ship is going to be managed, and that is your reputation to your customers. So it is very, very important that if you're a standard shipping company, you need to have that. Now, coming to point number 2, again, I know of all the standard companies having a program where they have, it's called Coming Ashore program, where if there is an opening in the office, it is first offered to your seafarers who are on board ships, whether they would like to make use of that opening ashore. And again, there is a detailed training program when a person wants to come ashore, depending on what role he wants to take. There is a 3 to 6 months training in that particular role, so that when you give them the particular responsibility, they're able to carry it off well. So standard companies do have that. And that's why it's very important to choose the right company, what Ganesha said. Thank you.
And I think that's actually a really good comment. And we have seen a lot of concern about some companies out there that are providing not necessarily, as you said, a good company. You need to have this good company. You need to do your research and understand what you're getting into. Captain Bhasin, did you have something else that you'd like to add to the discussion right now on that topic?
Thank you, Jillian. Everything is covered actually. And
Okay.
I endorse what Sankalp said. Our company or our MASSA companies, standard companies, already are having this. In fact, the skill development as of now is company driven. It is spent by the company, all standard companies. So whether it is the way they look at how they want to run their ships, how they want to do the development in the HR, which is the most important ingredient. Going forward, the second point also, same way, you already have a standard company, a particular program. If I have a show job in India or my technical office, of course, they were the first one considered because they know the working of the company. They know what kind of shift you have, what kind of specific ISM code you have. So they are already been through this. It's so easy for them to adjust. So it's already there.
Thank you very much. I have actually a question here that's specifically for Mr. Serang, and it's a question that says, "Sir, as a union, how are you involved in the training of seafarers?"
Oh, you see, we trace our origins from 1896, and we know that we are a strong union. We like to be known as a strong union, but we are also a very responsible union. And as a responsible union, we have ventured into training facilities, for decades. We have our own training academy in Goa. And additionally, we are also into soft skills courses and also offshore related courses. We have one academy in Mumbai also. All these efforts have only been possible because of our social partner, the Shipowners side. It would not have been possible if we did not have the support and the understanding of the shipowner. So we are very much involved into training. We have subsidized courses. We have online courses in the pandemic also. And most of the courses are at zero cost to the seafarer. For the company, it would be subsidized, but most of the courses as of now in the pandemic, and we have future plans also for hard skill, it is at zero cost to the seafarers. We endeavor to have it. So we have quite a bit of our own training endeavors which we have went into. We have gone beyond the purview of a trade union. We are into so many such activities also. Thank you.
Thank you. That actually brings me to probably one of the most tough questions of this whole discussion. And of course, the topic is called funding of skill development initiatives. And you just talked about this concept of at no cost to the seafarer. We also have some questions that are coming through about self-funding. So students, seafarers who are self-funding their training. But what are the options that we have? We know we have skill gaps. We know we have those soft skills, those digital skills that need to be developed. There are opportunities to get training through online methods. But what are the actual options to develop that skill, to do these skill development initiatives? And how might we work on progressing that so that we can actually address the skill sets for the cadets, for the ratings, for the existing seafarers? And I'm going to start again, Mr. Serang. I'm going to put you back on the spot because you were just talking about that. And then we'll go around the panelists.
See, I would say, Jillian, in the Indian context, let me tell you, because I'm more familiar with the Indian context. Funds are available. Okay, funds are available from various avenues, whether it is a trust of the unions, trust of the shipowners, or also the government. The funds are available. But what we have lacked, and very frankly, I have to be very frank, we have lacked in identifying what are the skill gaps collectively. We need to do that. We are in a process of doing that. It is an ongoing process. Once we identify the skill gap, that these are the gaps which needs to be looked into collectively, then definitely we can endeavor to have some platforms for imparting that particular knowledge. And funds are available in India. We don't have any issues about the fund. But on a general note, I would say that there are also welfare organizations or welfare boards existing all over the world. In many places there are welfare boards. So part of the welfare should also be training. The training should be construed. Welfare should not necessarily meaning welfare, well-being and mental health and other stuff. Training should also be part of that particular welfare endeavors. If that happens, definitely there will be funds available from that side also. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I see that Captain Shukla has his hand up as well. So over to you, Captain Shukla.
Thank you, Jillian. I would support what Mr. Ghani has just said. We all are doing trainings in silos, whether it be individual shipping companies, what they feel are skill sets that they have identified through accidents that have taken place on board their ships, the skill gaps that are identified there, they develop training basis that, and that's what the companies are doing. Individual organizations such as FOSMA or any other organization there, or whether it be the unions, they see that the industry feels that this is what the skill set gap is, and they design training on that. It is an irony that we just about yesterday had a collective meeting of the industry with the administration, and we decided that we will identify skill gaps. What Mr. Ghani has said, there are various avenues of getting funding there, which we can. The funding is not the issue, but we have now reached that stage where, along with the administration and the industry, as well as the union expertise that we have, we are coming together and now identifying common skill gaps towards which we will have a common approach in training and, of course, a common approach in funding. So funding per se is not an issue, but we have just reached that position where, as an industry as a whole, with the administration, we are going to identify the skill gaps. And that is work in progress, and we will make it happen.
Excellent, thank you. And I see that Mr. Hajara has a comment, so please, over to you.
Yes, basically, as has been mentioned by Abdul Bhai and even Captain Sankalp, that basically, there not much of study which has gone into ascertaining the skill gap. So that's what is very essential. And if the DG Shipping, along with the industry, has decided in India to really, undertake a study to ascertain the skill gap, that's a very, very good move. And there were, of course, not only individual companies, but there were attempts by even, classification societies, particularly I remember DNV. Now, of course, it has become the DNV, Jillian, the largest one in the world. So there also they had, Skill Plus and different committees all over the world. I remember I was in the committee in India. So definitely they also tried to, identify the skill gaps, and particularly they felt that the time has come to go beyond STCW, because STCW only, pinpoints the absolute essential, competency level. But there are many things which are not covered by STCW courses. So that's why, of course, all this, bridge maneuvering course and various other, value-added courses are there, which are going on, and the companies are definitely funding them. But when it comes to funding, once a particular training institute, particularly, of course, like a shipping company, funded training institutes, like in SCI, we have Maritime Training Institute, Great Eastern have their own institute, MASSA has their own institute, and so on and so forth. So once an institute has the reputation that students coming out of them, they are definitely going to get employed, then even funding by the banks is absolutely no issue. I do remember that MTI in SCI, we had discussions with even with State Bank of India and all that. And it was mentioned very clearly that if the students, of course, students are meant to, pay it back through their employment, but the education loan in India is not something which is very difficult to get. And even for seafaring, I think that is not much of an issue at all. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And actually, there's been some really good comments that have come out with regards to this. And I will pick up as well on that siloed approach. So Captain Shukla, you've indicated that within the industry, is that information that you had, is that within the industry in India, or is that at a global level that you have come together for those skill gaps?
No, it is currently in India. It is currently in India, but we plan to set a precedent and then take it abroad.
Because I know there's been work as well done in UK Maritime. There's been work done at various areas. So you are correct. And that's, I think, part of the topic title that we have here, a global approach. And so where are those silos? How can we break those silos down to have this global approach? I think we've got some very, very good comments, and we have a very interactive audience. So I'm just trying to keep up with all of these aspects here. And one of them, I think you've already addressed the question that was there, and that was about the employment for students who are self-sponsored and they spend their own personal money. And there are many out there who are spending their own personal money, taking their time away from the ship to go and do their training. And what is their opportunity to ensure that they will be able to have the training if they do it outside of FOSMA and MASSA? So any thoughts on that, or any advice to those seafarers who are in the role, or younger seafarers who are spending their own time and their own money to upskill themselves about what their employment capability might be? So I might actually pass to Captain Bhasin for that to start off with. Isn't that nice of me?
Yeah, thank you, Jillian. You spoke about the persons who have done they spent money on their own for the various particular courses. I also saw same time Shukla sending a question, somebody asking me what is the importance you would give for the knowledge, vice versa, competency. And that is the answer. I love these people on their own initiative. They have done something. I will always give precedence to competency. Academic knowledge is one thing, but competency is the one which is you gain by additional courses or by skill development. I do not have, unfortunately, the answer for the particular person when he says he has spent on his own, maybe for his own benefit, like we have done so many courses in our life for our own upliftment. That's how I would look at it. But I would also like to mention what Sankalp said. Yes, just about yesterday only, an industry meeting happened with the organization. Sankalp was there from FOSMA, we were there from MASSA, Mr. Ghani is sitting here, MUI. We all were there. And it was such a wonderful interaction because the DG Shipping immediately said, make a committee within a week to look into it. And every month thereafter, we will have a collective meeting of the industry towards the skill development or towards whatever scaling gaps are there to enhance the employment. So these were the two main things. I just wanted to add to that.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Does anyone else? Yes, Mr. Hajara.
Yeah, I am not trying to answer the question or even supplement what has already been said. But two things which were said, first one by Abdul Bhai and the other one is by Mahendra now. I sort of got a bit taken aback because I always had a concept that competency is the sum total of knowledge, skill, and attitude. First, it was Abdul Bhai who included attitude into skill. I always thought attitude is something slightly different from skill. And of course, that is the most difficult thing to attain. That is, changing mindset and changing the attitude of a person is the most difficult thing that one can attempt. But anyway, so that is one. And secondly, now Mahendra said something about knowledge versus competency. Now, how can there be competency without knowledge? Competency is the sum total of knowledge, skill, and attitude as far as I am concerned. Sorry, I digressed, but I thought that, these are comments being made. I must give my intervention on that. Thank you very much.
Yes, Hajara sir, I agree to you. But the question is, I read the question. They said, what is the relative importance you would give to academic knowledge vis-a-vis competency? So my answer was, with the academic knowledge, when you do the skill development, and that is when you enhance your competency. Nobody is taking away the academic knowledge.
I think they both go hand in hand.
Hand
So
in
it's
hand,
so
in
important.
hand in
And
hand.
training, as we all know, the
Jillian.
goal of training is that KSNA, the knowledge, skills, and attitude. You've got to change that vision and that approach you have. And yes, I will pass now to Mr. Serang.
Jillian, what I gather from the questioner was that I'm doing the courses trading on my own. I'm spending so much money and I'm rearing helter sector. No company is employing me. So that is a lot of anguish among such seafarers who are doing their own courses. They're spending money, time, and the companies are not getting gainfully employed. So that was an anguish I could read from that question. That was more of an anguish so here, in my initial remarks, the company should also be forthcoming in accommodating such seafarers who have done on their own such courses and give them a good break, give them a chance on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to pass to Captain Shukla first, Mr. Hajara. So I'm going to go to Captain Shukla first, and then I'll go back to Mr. Hajara for one last time before we move on to the next question.
I think
So, Captain Shukla.
to answer Mr. Ghani over here, and even the question there, standard companies do not differentiate between whether a person has done a course himself or the company's got the course done. Now, a person, that's what Captain Bhasin, I think, was trying to answer. A company looks at the competency of a person, and there are various competency tests that companies have. And if the person has the competence, why would a company want to lose out on a good, competent person to employ? So that is what I think people are trying to answer over here, is that nobody would stop gainful employment of a person who's competent, who's committed, and who displays some sense of loyalty. That's about it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Mr. Hajara, for the last note on this question and before we move to the next question.
No, I just wanted to mention that I fully appreciate the sentiments, the anguish and everything. But again, we are talking of standard company, and let me say about my company. I mean, I still call it my company, having worked only about 40 years there. So Shipping Corporation of India, which is responsible, I would say, for the state of seafaring as it is there today in India. I mean, after all, what SCI has done for Indian seafaring, no other company has done even 1/10 of that. So that's besides the point. But I'm saying these companies who have their own training institutes, they go through a screening, they go through, proper advertisements and everything. They select their own boys and train them. So it is only natural that they would be giving first preference to that. We may have full sympathy for everyone else who are doing training on their own, spending their money and all that. But after all, it cannot be expected that we can ever give a preference to those boys over the boys and girls that we have trained ourselves in our training institute. So that's a fact. You just can't go beyond that. As Mahendra had said, or I think it was Sankalp who had said, that when there is a question of an opening in the shore office, obviously the first preference is always given to our own seafarers. Only if we find a situation where we can't get a proper, our own seafarer, then only we'll look beyond that. So similarly here, unless there are vacancies which are beyond what can be met by our own training institute, boys and girls, there is no way that these companies can look beyond that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'd like to actually change the topic a little bit and go into this concept of the technical skills, the digital skills, which also came up on our Mentimeter. And there's really good, a couple of questions that have come in from the audience around the technical aspect. And the first one I have is that on the FSM banner, it shows a uniformed officer shaking a hand of a bot. So what are the skills that could be important in future? Which one do you think is going to be there? We have technical skills. We've also talked about soft skills. Do you have a thought on which one is more critical, or what are your thoughts with regards to how we address these skill gaps within technical and soft skills? I think Captain Bhasin, you come off there first, so I'll go to Captain Bhasin first and then to Captain Shukla.
Thank you, Jillian. In my opinion, both have their own relevance. The soft skill as well as the technical skill. As the word you mentioned earlier, they go hand in hand. That's how I will put it. You just can't have a soft skill without having a technical skill. Technical skill has to be there. Then you work on it through your soft skills. That's my take. And there are various types of technical skills. The company or the industry can choose. Okay, I need to train somebody in this particular type of ships or this particular type of engine room pumpman, for example, which we are already talking with Mr. Gunny through the industry. So that is my take. I think it is hand in hand. Both have their own relevance and both have their own importance. They're equally equal.
Very good. Thank you. I'm going to pass to Captain Shukla, please.
Yes, I would agree with Bhasin sir over here. Soft skills with technical skills, they go hand in hand. You having very good hard skills, but you lacking soft skills ends up in accidents because you do not think what safety is about. You just want to get the job done. Shortcuts can be taken. So these two go hand in hand. Coming to what kind of digital skills we are looking at with seafarers, as we see today, automation on board ships has increased vastly from what a traditional ship was. I could have never dreamt of a camless engine. For me, it was beyond my thought process that there would be electronic engines at one given time. For me, in fact, I was promoted to second mate and I was sent on board a ship. And when I reached on the bridge, it was a container ship where we were in port for only 4 hours in Hong Kong. I reached the bridge and I started seeing screens. I asked, where is the chart? And they said, there on the screen. And I'm wondering, what the hell is that and how do I use it? I literally had a heart attack over there. And that is today called the EGDIS. And it is a very common thing. Even a fresh cadet knows how to use an EGDIS today. So the digital skills on board ships are continuing to increase as the technology improves, and the industry as well as the industry is coming out with training procedures for that. The latest we can see is the IGF code that is specified by the by STCW convention. And we are seeing now simulator-based training increasing in India with regards to the IGF code, the ships using fuels which are gaseous fuels and things like that. So with technology, the industry is very dynamic. New regulations are coming in, new training courses are coming in, and what is best part of the industry today is these are all simulator-based training. So it actually gives you the hands-on experience. You want to make mistakes on the simulator. That's how you learn.
Thank you so much. I'm going to pass now to Mr. Serang.
Yeah, you see, much has been said about the balance between the technical and the soft skill, and I also concur with that, but I wanted to put it in a lighter way. It was mentioned in the morning by Consul General of Norway, Mr. Flolo, that autonomous ships they have ventured into, and this is a dynamic process. There will be evolution about the way we do things on board as far as the skills are concerned. Autonomous ship will come, but I have a piece of mention to the seafarer that don't worry at all. The numbers might reduce on board the ship, but there will be definitely other opportunities as far as the technology goes ahead. One thing for sure, seafarers will not lose out on business. There will be other opportunities, and moreover, as trade unions, we are never going to lose out on business. We will continue with our business because we are going to organize those who are, doing the drone ships, and we are going to organize them. So we are more safe as a union. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Yes, Mr. Hajara.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that while I completely concur with all of them, that both technical skill and soft skill, they are equally relevant, equally important. But I would only say that, in my opinion, it is more difficult to impart the soft skills. You can much more easily impart the technical skill. So that's why I will put the soft skill ahead of technical skill, only because it is more difficult to impart them. As I was very fond of always saying that a person with little less knowledge and little less skill, with a very positive attitude, is much more of an asset than a person having more knowledge and more skill, but with a completely negative attitude. So that's where I put the softer aspects little ahead of the hard ones. Thank you.
Excellent. And I see Captain Shukla wants to come in, but just before then, I actually want to link this into another question that we had earlier on, and that is about the opportunity to use digital tools to help with our skill training. One of the big areas that has been having a lot of development is virtual reality and augmented reality, and the use of these tools to help with your skills training. So we had a question that was saying, what do you think about the funding of virtual reality training and assessment solutions to see if they will, to some extent, resolve the soft skill gap and to improve retention? So we're still keeping in that soft skills discussion area, but also now linking it to the use of technology. So Captain Shukla, are you still happy to pop in on that?
In fact, it's very strange that you pop up this question now, because I was just going to react to what Mr. Hajara said, that yes, soft skill training, in fact, is one of the most difficult trainings to give. Hard skill training is very, very easy. And I was going to talk about the digital platform, because imparting soft skill training on a digital platform is close to impossible. Because what happens is, what I have seen with practical soft skill training is that you have workshops, you have interaction, and human beings, end of the day, are social animals. And the only way a soft skill training changes is when one person actually interacts with another person and sees how his mindset is different, and maybe try to adapt that through a workshop discussion where there is physical interaction. So when it comes to soft skill training, yes, very, very important, very hard to impart. And on a digital platform, soft skill training, I'm sorry, at least with my experience, we've got other experts here, I don't think that is something that is doable. We try to do it to tick the boxes, but no, it is not giving the desired effect. Number one. Number two, when we talk about virtual reality, augmented reality, or yesterday we were talking to DG Shipping about cloud-based simulator training, which is as close as possible to virtual reality. That is very good for hard skills. Ship maneuvering simulators, BTM, engine room simulators. It's very good with regards to that. It is as close to possible to what reality is. That is what virtual reality or augmented reality is. So that is where you can actually make use of things. You can try out things. You can see how good things work. So that's okay for hard skill training. But my view, very strongly, soft skill training has to be something that is a physical interaction. I've got other experts, their comments.
Thank you. Any other comments? So who else would like to jump in on this, the possible use of virtual reality or augmented reality to assist with soft skill training and to assist with retention? I think you must have covered it very well, Captain Shukla. I actually have my own thoughts on this as well. And when we're talking about the use of augmented and virtual reality in training, I think it also needs to link into the fact that we are seeing with trials now on board vessels with augmented reality and virtual reality. So it really does point to the fact that we should be implementing these skill sets and these training opportunities in the training institutes now, because they're actually coming on board vessels. There was a great post recently on LinkedIn from a very good colleague of mine in Newcastle Port here in Australia, where he was piloting a vessel with augmented reality, and it had some positives and also some negatives. So, you know, with the issues with the GPS input into, for example, the AIS, and it looked like there was a ship completely blocking the channel in the augmented reality. So I do believe that there are areas to go. We have a couple more questions that are coming. I'm looking at the time. We do have time for maybe 2 more questions to go, and then I want to end off with one last mentee. But we have a question that's just come in, and it says, are courses for the future generic, or do we need to focus on specific training to get employed by the larger companies. So do we continue with the more generic training? We talked about STCW earlier, or are we looking at more specific training to be employed by companies? And yes, I'm going to pass to Captain Shukla again, but it is open to the others. So please let me know if you want to jump in.
It'll be a mix of both trainings. Generic training, like I mentioned, behavior-based safety and things like that have to continue. While specific training regards to, ship engine model type or like the IGF training, all these things also will continue. So it has to be a healthy mix of both. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Serang, did you want to jump in on that? I thought I saw your hand up. Or Captain Bhasin. Yes, sorry, Captain Bhasin.
Yeah, thank you, Jillian. Yes, see, the generic training is the basic requirement. I mean, you do a particular training to be employed at a particular rank, which is driven by the IMO or our STCW ratification. So that is one thing, that is basic, which we all need to go as per the your COC or the rank. Coming back, it plays a major role for a person to have a specific knowledge or specific competence in a particular area. And it is valid for across the fleet of vessels, whether it's cargo ship, various type, later LNG ship. All the companies are getting now in 22. I mean, they are going to be an order of more than 50 plus LNG vessels on the cargo vessels. I'm not talking only cruise vessels. Cruise vessels are also there. So most of the companies are now going toward the IGF basic and advanced courses and getting them in particular courses done. So that is a required. That is very much required. And if somebody comes with that particular experience, definitely he has an edge. So there's no denying it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask a bit of a question that's sort of linked to this technology and the developments that we've seen in technologies. And what are the lessons that we have learned during the past months of the pandemic? Because we've done this big pivot. We've put a lot of training online. We've talked about cloud-based simulation just now. What are some of the lessons we've learned during the months of the pandemic that could be valuable when looking at opportunities for funding and initiatives for bridging the skill gap? And I'd like to pass this one to Mr. Hajara to begin with.
After all, basically, as far as funding is concerned, the banks or the financial institutions or even the companies, whosoever is funding, he wants to be sure of two things. Number one, that his fund will come back with some return. That is, of course, most essential. And secondly, he is funding something which is very, very useful for not only the person that he is funding, but for the society, for the nation, for the society. So I think during pandemic, what has become absolutely evident to the whole world, I am sure, I mean, it's not only to the maritime sector, but really to the whole world, as I think Abdul Bhai said, that but for the seafarers and but for shipping, the world would have literally come to a grinding halt. So I think in general, the perception about shipping and seafaring has actually improved during the pandemic. So to that extent, I would say that funding should become easier because of the second aspect. That is, any funding body will feel that funding the seafarers, funding the shipping for the training is something which is very useful to the society. So, but if you ask about lesson during, pandemic, which is going to help funding, I can't think of anything offhand that, as particular lesson that we have learned during, of course, the digitalization has remarkably improved during the pandemic because there was no other option. And that's going to help going forward. There's no question on that. But other than that, any specific lesson, it doesn't come to my mind as on now.
Thank you very much. I'm going to pass to Mr. Serang now.
Thank you. Lesson, yes, definitely. During the pandemic, the seafarers had, there were many issues working on the seafarers as far as going on board the ship, coming down from the ship, and then again going for training. So the atmosphere was not very conducive, but seafarers, being seafarers, they've come around and many of them have taken, done their own courses, whether it is online or on online courses, and also in some courses, as we indicated, we have had the Seafarers Zero Cost. But additionally, I just want to, because you mentioned about funding, we as NUSI, we have a particular scheme in which from 1st March 2020 till 31st December 2021, if any seafarer had done and spent from his own pocket, his or her own pocket towards STCW courses or skill enhancement courses, we refunded to them. We have a scheme still ongoing. We refunded to them half their course fees. So that was a support system which we gave to our seafarers from 1st March during the pandemic period. So it was a sort of a pandemic support for training that we did, and it is still continuing. I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Captain Shukla.
Yeah, I think what happened during the pandemic and what we decided to invest on is, of course, all learning went online. Captain Hajara mentioned that everybody started investing in digital solutions and things like that. But what we did find is that because of the lack of proper resources, there was digital fatigue that was creeping in, whether it be with the instructors or it be even with the people who are attending courses. That is why the industry came out with a learning management system, an online learning management system, which was virtual, which reduced the glitches in connectivity, which made it easier for the seafarers to register for courses online. So FOSMA went out and for both the institutes, whether it be their institute in Noida and even in Kolkata, there was a big investment that was made in these learning management systems, which is on a digital platform, with everything happening digitally, including course bookings, classrooms, whiteboards, breakaway classrooms, tutorials, certification, and finally feedback, everything in one virtual class. Also, a lot of investment went towards, we have this training the trainer course, but now training the trainer course was always on a physical platform. Now that skill set of the trainers had to be upgraded because not all the trainers are are computer savvy or digital savvy. It no longer was only computer savvy. It was completely a digital platform. A lot investment was put into training the existing trainers on how to train on a digital platform, how to try and keep the group focused, and even the learning material was then put onto the digital platform completely for the virtual classrooms. So a lot of investment has gone in there, and I think going in the future, even individual companies have invested in that because individual companies have realized, hey, listen, you don't have to fly people across India. Put them in hotels and spend so much money, you might as well have a good digital platform where you can do it, and you'll save the money in the future when it comes to airfares and things like that. I mean, to be honest, that's what even a ship manager thinks. So,
well, let's hope that funding that they've saved in that platform can actually help them fund more training because it's more accessible and there's less travel required. Captain Bhasin, did you have anything else that you'd like to add to that before we go to our final question and then wrap up the session?
Actually, along with the learning management system or the digital revolution, I call it, which happened during the pandemic, a new methodology also has come into the training. For example, our simulator trainings, if you are not able to do the simulator courses, practically, you're thinking about cloud-based simulators. So these kind of methodology has also come in, and there are various other things which has come in the same way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so I'm going to come to my last question, which is one that's popped up, and it's a little bit different, but it is linked to training, to development, and also to how you're going to fund it. And that is, we have a very, very specific question, which I think a lot of people will be interested in, and that is about moving from one role to another. And this is specifically about how can an engine cadet get into the shipping business And can you give some ideas about how you become a ship owner? So it's really this idea that we've been talking about, these different cohorts, but how can you actually make that move, and where are you going to get those skill sets? So who wants to take this one?
Okay, I would like to just come in. I would like to congratulate the person for asking such a wonderful question. He said he's an Indian cadet and he wants to be a ship owner. So I really hats off to him for his thought process. There is about almost a month and a half, one seminar was conducted by some Indian maritime associations, where the person who became a ship owner, he spoke about it. And he said two things you need to know. Very simple two things, he said. And one of them is now talking to MASSA to conduct our LNG courses. He said, main thing is to have the knowledge. If you have money to become a ship owner, that is easier. It's better to first gain the knowledge. Get into, join some company. Understand the shipping business before becoming a ship owner. That was the one thing. But once you have the knowledge, all you need is your passion and your attitude. So I'm just repeating his words. I'm repeating his words here. But I really thank the person who has asked this question.
Thank you very much. Captain Shukla.
Yeah, Jillian, I think, again, really good question. You know where this man is ending up in, a woman is ending up in the future, most likely being a ship owner. Yeah, again, we interact a lot with in Indian Maritime University. Gani sir is also there on the court. Way back when I wanted to do a ship management course, I had no options but to go to UK. I went to University of Plymouth, did my MS in shipping, logistics, supply chain management, and port policies. But today, these kind of courses are available in India. IMU has ship management related courses. So what Captain Bhasin said, we can see already the drive. The person has the drive. The knowledge is what is required, which you can gain. Today, courses are available here in India. They also will teach you finance and things like that. So you will know where to get that financing from. And God bless, this person should be a ship owner in the coming future.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Hajara.
See, I basically believe that entrepreneurship is not a science. So you have to have in you the entrepreneurship to become a ship owner. If you talk about knowledge, if you talk about passion, it's not as if the professional managers are not any less passionate about their job than a ship owner. So it is not knowledge, it is not passion, it is something slightly different. You know, I mean, sorry, please don't consider me immodest or think about, me boasting. But I think as far as shipping knowledge is concerned, as far as passion is concerned, I had a reasonable level of that, both of that. But I never thought of, unlike my good friend Ravi Mehrotra, or of course, much before him, Mr. Tikku, all of them, I never thought of being a ship owner ever. So it is not only knowledge, it is not only passion, it is something slightly different. That's my opinion.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Serang.
Yeah, as a trade unionist, I know I'm never going to be a ship owner. So I agree with all the three earlier speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to leave that as my last question because it's a wonderful one to end off with. And it really does link these different cohorts for these skill developments that we've spoken about, the ratings, the cadets, the young officers as they're moving forward. I'd just like to wrap up our session with one last. We started with a mentee. I want to end with a mentee. This is a slightly different mentee. So I'm just going to share my screen again. And again, to remind yourselves what the link is, you can go on the correct my screen. Sorry, 1 second. I'm going to stop that share for 1 second. Make sure I've got the right screen shared this time. There we go. I think that's the correct one there. So when you take a look at it, you should see the screen that says Funding Skill Development Initiatives. You go to the mentee again. It's the same mentee. So if you still have it open, that's fine. And I moved it now to the next question, which is a little bit different. So again, I'm just going to leave it for a second on the QR code in case you've closed out your Menti. But if you still have your Menti, just refresh it and say, accept to go to the next question. And I'm going to pop the next question now onto the screen. So just give me a second. And Shukla, can I just confirm that you can see the Menti question on the screen?
Yes, I can see, Jillian, very well.
Excellent. So I'm going to make it full screen. And now I want you, so a little bit different, I want you to rank these statements as to how much you agree with the statement. And it's a little bit different to the word cloud, but it gives you an opportunity again to look at the type of questions that you have. We've seen a few coming in now, they're ranking them. And I'm going to my next question. There we go. I'm going to do my own system. So which one do you think is the most important of these? Now. And my last one, I have to do this. You can only do this one once. Okay, so right now is that the skill sets required in maritime are changing is really the top one. That is there. Training standards will support future skill sets for maritime professionals. Now, we did speak about those already, the STCW, and the fact that they're really generic. We've had some indication that we're already getting the discussions going to get out of silos and to have a global approach. So maybe what we'll be seeing is some changes to the STCW, to the model courses that we have specifically. Skill gaps for future training needs in the maritime have been clearly identified. Oh, that's coming fairly low. So I guess the thing is that we're not quite there yet. We need to actually get that there. And there are existing funding initiatives. Yes, so those existing, we need to work on funding initiatives. So I think that the ranking is quite clear that the lower level ones are the ones that we really need to focus on. And that is actually getting those skill gaps identified and identifying those funding initiatives. So thank you very much for your participation in our Mentees. And thank you for your participation in the session as a whole. It's been a very interactive, some great questions. A couple of key points that I've come up with is that soft skills are really, really important, as well as now that digital knowledge, and really hard to get the two, which one is top. I think maybe soft skills might be the harder ones to learn. Upskilling is important and it's ongoing. So you never stop learning, and learning to learn is probably the best thing that you can do. There is a bit of a digital divide, and we are seeing that as we're looking at the future for the training, and that our whole organization, as always, the maritime industry is dynamic and it's ongoing, these changes that are happening. I would like to thank all of the speakers that we have here for sharing their knowledge over the past 90 minutes. So Captain Shukla, thank you, Captain Bhasin, Mr. Serang, and Mr. Hajara. It's been my honor and pleasure to facilitate, to moderate this discussion. I'd like to thank the sponsors to this FSM, and as has already been mentioned, it's been wonderful that Qatar have the Seafarers, the lobbies, the places for them to go. And I would like to thank Shukla as well, and the team at PNG, at the Naval Connection, for ongoing work with regards to the future skills for maritime professionals. I'd like to close the session now and pass to Shukla for some final words before we go for our break.
Jillian, thank you very much for summing this up so brilliantly as always. And Jillian, I have no words. You know, I've, like most of you out here, and I have also attended so many conferences. I did not have a second to get out of my chair. I mean, my WhatsApp was almost flooded, and this is the moment which I want to take to everybody, to just tell everybody, if you have a question, kindly put it up on the live Q&A. And because people want to send you personal messages, which is okay, of course. But you know, it is such an interactive thing, and because we have experts like Mr. Hajara, Captain Bhasin, Captain Sankalp, and Mr. Abdulgani, that I think that all the seafarers descended to ask their questions, queries, clear doubts, because what's more important, and looking at it from the eyes of the seafarer, is they want that kind of, we all want that kind of security, because we have these people in position and filling in a very, very strong chair, each one of them, and in decision making and policy making roles. So everybody wants to know exactly what, because we're going through a very, very huge uncertainty as to what transition we are going to make in terms of future skills and the employment. So I would like to personally thank the audience and seafarers for their engagement. It's a hugely engaging session. Keep them on coming. And while we go for the break, I want to just tell you a few things. We are going to come back. We're going to take a break now, come back at 1600 hours India time. And we're going to have a very interesting session on human resource. Part of it was discussed at this session as well. And we have human resource practices in seafaring, opportunities for improving retention. So that's also a lot of things discussed on the seafaring side. We have a seafarer also in this session, as well as Colonel Kochan and Ral Harris will be joining in from London. And we will have Uday Purohit moderating the session, and Captain Philip Matthews also. So stay with us. Meanwhile, I would like you to visit the booth. We have got hundreds of people in the networking lounge already, people taking selfies, people going and writing in this. So they're all enjoying themselves in this. And if you have any questions, I was unable to do justice to all the questions. I still have about 40 odd questions in my inbox, which I'm going to send to all the speakers and to Jillian, to you also, so that, we can ultimately get those addressed by the experts and maybe mail it back to them, so that none of the questions gets, ignored or something. Taking this opportunity again to sincerely thank for the support of Captain Shukla, Captain Bhasin, Mr. Sabyasachi Hajara, Mr. Abdulgani Serang, and Jillian, to you as well. I mean, for the brilliant things that you bring into any session that you are a participant of. So ladies and gentlemen, before we take a small break here, I want to just run a couple of videos for you. In the meanwhile, when we are doing the break, we will be playing a corporate video of Bernhard Schulte also in this auditorium. So all seafarers can take some time to just check this video, and a brief video of Qatar Airways here for all of you before we go on the break. Yes. Okay, so thanks for watching, and
Shaukat, you are mute.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So thanks for watching. We will come back at 1600 hours and stay back. We will also play the Bernhard Schulte video. But meanwhile, I don't want to keep the speakers on standby, sir. I will officially want to close the session, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Blessings for future Shilts Maritime. Thank you, Jillian. Thank you, Abdulgani Sarangji. Thank you, Captain Shukla, and thank you, Captain Bhasin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hajara.
Thank you.
If you're looking for a company to effectively manage your ships, and you need a range of complementary maritime solutions, you need a leading provider. But who do you choose? Maybe a company building on what it already knows. A company with a heritage of 130 years of knowledge and experience. Is the number of managed vessels significant? Or the number of employees? What about a company with the right global presence, expertise in all the right places? A company able to maximize vessel availability. A company that believes in partnerships, working with customers to fulfill their needs, meet their objectives, no matter what vessel type, working to deliver higher income at the lowest possible operating cost. A company committed to safety and efficiency, committed to protecting the environment. And shouldn't you choose a company with one of the largest pools of highly skilled professional seafarers in the industry? A company that believes in building knowledge and expertise through training, with its own state-of-the-art training facilities and world-class trainers to operate them. And then there's your company. Naturally, you want to develop, to grow. So shouldn't you choose a company that will help you do that? A company which offers a range of integrated solutions, one complementing the other, each tailor-made to match your requirements. New building across a wide range of vessel types, conversions, retrofits, from design to launch, built to the highest standards in shipyards around the world. Commercial management, competitive chartering, analyzing market trends, seeking opportunities, delivering better, faster value solutions. Secure, transparent maritime software applications for ship owners who, wherever they may be, want the very latest information about their vessels. A high-quality catering and housekeeping service, servicing the needs of seafarers wherever they come from, whatever their tastes, keeping them healthy and well-fed. And when they come ashore, looking after their travel needs with a 24-hour global travel service at competitive rates. So, the choice is yours. Do you want a company with the experience, the global presence, the commitment to safety and efficiency, the ability to recruit, train and retain the best seafarers, to be world-class, yet at the same time, continually seeking to improve, and to deliver value for money? If this is the kind of provider you need, there really is only one choice. Bernhard Schulte Ship Management.